Hello and welcome to this week's Sunday service with me, Corinne Worsley. Sunday service is a weekly video from me to you with tools and tips that I hope are helpful for you in creating and living a life you love. And today's topic is all about New Year's resolutions, but hopefully with a slightly more interesting and useful twist than the normal posts about setting and sticking to New Year's resolutions. I don't want to sport with your intelligence, as I'm sure you have set many resolutions in the past. So the topic I want to talk about today is contrast. So what do I mean when I say contrast? So you can think of typical contrasts such as hot and cold, light and dark, good and evil. But what I want to introduce to you today is the concept of using contrast in your life to help you figure out how you want your life to be and who you want to be as a person. So there are a couple of ways that we can use and observe contrast to help us figure those things out and ultimately help us set resolutions that are meaningful for us and that aren't resolutions that we feel we should be setting based on what somebody else wants or what society says we should be doing. Those are the ones that we don't end up sticking to. So the first type of contrast I want to introduce you to is looking around you at other people's lives and how other people live and observing what would work for you and what would not work for you. So if any of you are like me, you may find yourself at this time of year spending time with people you wouldn't necessarily spend a lot of time with normally, and perhaps slipping into judgment mode about the way that they live their life. So what I would like you to do, if that is the case, is to use that judgment positively. So rather than heaping negative judgments on these people about how they live their lives, just notice when you see something that you think would never work for you, or you see someone living and you just can't understand how that could possibly work for them. Say to yourself, fascinating, how useful this information is. Because what you can then do when you have that information is you can start to figure out what would work for you in life. And again, if any of you watching are like me and you're kind of not ticking the usual boxes in life, you're effectively creating your own blueprint. That can be quite tricky because you are starting from scratch. You haven't got anybody else to copy. There's nobody else out there that you can really model as regards building a life you love. So what can be helpful when we're first starting out is to observe what we know is not going to work for us. Figure out why, if you can, and then start thinking about, okay, well, what would actually work for me? So that's one way that we can use contrast. The other way we can use contrast is by observing other people's behaviors and the impact that those behaviors and those people have on us, in order to enable us to figure out the areas of ourselves that we still would like to work on and improve. So again, if you're anything like me, there will be some people who just push your buttons. They push buttons that you didn't even know that you had. And it's all too easy to look at the other person and to blame them for annoying you, when in fact the likelihood is that whatever the behavior is that's pushing your buttons is actually mirroring something in yourself that you perhaps haven't learned to love yet, or that you know you would quite like to work on and improve, but you just haven't got around to it yet. So if you do find yourself in any situations where you have somebody who is pushing your buttons, you're finding yourself getting frustrated or annoyed or hurt, just take some deep breaths, take yourself off to another room if necessary, and think about what was it in their behavior that caused me to feel so triggered. And hopefully when you drill down into that, you'll be able to figure out that perhaps it was because you know that you behave like that sometimes and you get really frustrated with yourself because you don't want to behave like that. It could just be a certain character trait that you just find really difficult to love about yourself. So when you see it reflected back to you by somebody else, you react really quite strongly to that. And then once you've figured out what those areas are, you can come up with a plan of action. Either figure out how the hell you're going to love that part of yourself because it's not going anywhere, or find a way to work on and improve that part of yourself. Maybe it's a particular bad habit, so that you're no longer as triggered by other people who exhibit those behaviors. So I hope those two ways of using contrast are going to be helpful for you. I really do think that by using contrast, we can come up with resolutions and changes that we want to make in our lives that are truly meaningful for us and that we're more likely to stick to because they come from a place of truth, basically. They come from a place of being something that is really going to make a difference to our lives rather than just for the month of January. So I very much look forward to speaking to you again in 2018, as this is the last video of 2017. If you are in need of a bit of help in getting your 2018 off to a good start, there is a link in above this video that will take you to download a free guide to making 2018 your best year yet. That is my gift to you. So please do go ahead and click and enter your name and email if you want that guide. Otherwise, I wish you a wonderful and very happy new year, and I will speak to you in 2018.